Jealousy is the soundtrack of small minds trying to drown out the roar of greatness they'll never reach. My dear chosen ones, let me hit you with a truth most people will never say out loud. Your very existence is enough to make people uneasy. Before you open your mouth, before you tell your story, before you even explain who you are, you've already rattled cages. And do you know why? Because you carry weight they can't lift, scars they can't wear, and strength they can't fake. That alone is enough to spark resentment in hearts that have already quit on themselves. Think about it. Studies show most people compare themselves to others every 10 minutes. Every 10 minutes, their mind is scanning, measuring, adjusting, trying to see if they stack up. Now picture what happens when you walk into the room. Not just with a face, not just with a name, but with a presence built from everything you've survived. Suddenly, their measuring stick bends, their smile flickers, their confidence cracks, and without you saying a word, they feel like they've already lost. The irony, chosen ones, is that you never auditioned for this role. You didn't raise your hand and say, "Yes, I want to be the mirror that exposes people's insecurities." Yet here you are, living proof that resilience, vision, and authenticity can't be contained. You became the storm they never forecasted, the fire they thought would burn out, but instead kept spreading. And that unsettles them because it means their excuses no longer hold weight in your presence. Have you ever wondered why people watch you so closely? Why even when you're minding your own business, there's someone on the sidelines whispering, scrolling, analyzing? My chosen ones, it's because you've become their unwilling obsession. You could be at home, hair undone, in sweats, eating cereal straight out of the box. And still, someone is out there comparing their life to yours, like it's the season finale of their favorite drama series. They're mad, jealous, and taking notes they'll never admit to. And here's the sting, you don't even have to try. Chosen ones, before we dive deeper, I need you to pause for just a moment. If this message is already hitting your soul, if you feel that fire rising inside you, then show your support. Smash that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe right now. Your support isn't just numbers on a screen. It's fuel that keeps us creating, building, and delivering content that shifts energy, breaks illusions, and lights up paths. Every like, every share, every subscription helps us pour even more effort into bringing you raw, unfiltered truth and life-changing energy. So don't just watch from the sidelines. Stand with us, chosen ones. Hit that button, and let's keep pushing this movement forward together. This is the power of being chosen. You don't move like everyone else, and you don't settle like everyone else. While they're scrambling for recognition, you attract it naturally. While they bend themselves out of shape to fit in, you shift entire atmospheres just by walking in. Tell me, chosen ones, do you realize the kind of force that is? Do you realize how threatening it is for someone who has built their entire identity on applause to stand next to someone who commands presence without a single performance? They'll never say it out loud, but your life is a mirror they can't escape. You remind them of the dreams they abandoned, the risks they never took, the strength they never built. And instead of turning that into motivation, they twist it into envy. Why? Because facing their own mediocrity hurts more than resenting you. And so jealousy becomes their shield. But here's where you need to lock in, chosen ones. Their jealousy isn't proof that you're arrogant. It's proof that you're impactful. Their resentment isn't a sign you're wrong. It's a sign you've hit nerves they've worked hard to numb. Every sideways glance, every whispered rumor, every attempt to paint you as too much is nothing more than a compliment in disguise. Remember this, jealousy is not about you doing wrong, it's about you doing what they didn't have the courage to do. And I know what you might be thinking. Why me? Why does my existence stir so much chaos? Because impact never asks for permission. Because power doesn't tiptoe. Because when you've walked through storms and refused to shrink, you carry an energy that others can't fake or ignore. You survived things that should have broken you, and instead of crawling, you stood taller. That kind of resilience is rare, and rare always breeds envy. Let me put it plain. You are the storm that makes them scatter. You are the light that makes their shadows obvious. You are the echo that lingers long after you've left the room. You didn't choose this. You are this. And every time they react, every time they project, every time they try to twist your name, it's proof that your influence runs deeper than you even realize. So buckle in, chosen ones. Don't let their bitterness distract you. Let it fuel you. Let it remind you that you're not here to blend in, you're here to shake foundations. When you walk in, tension follows. When you speak, conversations shift. When you move, atmospheres rearrange themselves. That's not luck, that's not chance, that's impact. And the more they whisper, the more they roll their eyes, the more they sit in corners plotting. Remember this. They only throw stones at trees that bear fruit. If you weren't doing something right, if you weren't rising above their expectations, if you weren't proving every limitation wrong, they wouldn't even notice you. But they do. Every second, every scroll, every glance. Chosen ones wear that jealousy like armor. Let it remind you that you are not just living, you are disrupting. You are not just existing, you are rewriting what's possible. And as much as they want to deny it, you've already made more impact than you thought. And listen, chosen ones, yes, I'm talking to you. Whether this is your first time here or you've been walking with us for a while, your presence is the heartbeat of this movement. If this truth is already striking a chord, show it right now. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and drop the number 77 in the comments if you're ready to embrace the reality of your power. Ordinary people can't carry what you carry. Only chosen ones get these signs. Only chosen ones feel this shift. Your support keeps this message alive and lets us keep bringing you content that cuts through noise and sparks real change. So lock in, chosen ones, because what comes next will feel like someone just read your life out loud. Let's dive in. Number 1, your presence is the mirror that shatters their illusions. Your existence is the mirror that makes their comfort zones crack. They don't hate you because you did something wrong. They hate you because you did what they never had the courage to do. My dear chosen ones, let me make this crystal clear. Your very presence is a threat to people who've built their lives around mediocrity. You don't have to brag. You don't have to wave around achievements like trophies. You don't even have to try. Just by existing, just by showing up as you force them to look in a mirror they've been avoiding for years. And that reflection burns. Think about it. When someone has convinced themselves that good enough is all there is, your drive, your hunger, your refusal to shrink, it feels like a spotlight exposing every corner of their compromise. They see you pushing when they gave up. They see you learning when they stayed stuck. They see you building when they made excuses. And instead of clapping for you, instead of saying, maybe I can do more too, they aim that discomfort straight at you in the form of jealousy. Chosen ones, you need to hear this. People aren't mad at you because you're perfect. They're mad because you didn't stop where they did. You didn't stay in the mud. You didn't accept defeat as the final chapter. You fell, you stumbled, you bled, but you kept moving. And every single time they watch you rise, it drags up the guilt of every time they quit on themselves. That guilt is heavy, and instead of turning it into fuel, they turn it into bitterness. Here's the metaphor. Imagine standing in front of a cracked mirror. You can't unsee the cracks. That's what your existence does to them. It cracks their illusion of, I'm doing fine. Because when they see you thriving after storms that would have destroyed them, they can't escape the question pounding in their head. If they can do it, what's my excuse? And chosen ones, most people don't like asking themselves hard questions. So what do? They twist the narrative. Suddenly you're too much. Suddenly you're lucky. Suddenly you're arrogant. Anything but the truth that you're living proof of what's possible. And let me ask you this. How many times have you noticed someone trying to shrink you down, pointing out flaws, bringing up your mistakes, dismissing your progress? You ever wondered why? It's not because you're unworthy, it's because your progress unmasks their stagnation. They'd rather pick apart your imperfections than face their own laziness. They'd rather label you as the problem than admit they abandoned themselves. Here's the real kicker. Chosen ones, you're not even trying. You're not campaigning to be their role model. You're not putting yourself on a pedestal. You're just being you. But being you is enough to tear down the illusions they've built for comfort. That's why they're unsettled. That's why jealousy will always hover around you. Let me paint it this way. Some people live in a dimly lit room their whole lives, convinced it's bright enough. Then you walk in like a window they never expected, and suddenly the sunlight floods in. That light doesn't judge, it just is. But in that light, every speck of dust, every cobweb, every neglected corner is revealed. You don't have to say a word. Your authenticity does the exposing for you. And the reaction? Instead of cleaning their own house, they resent the window for being there. Now, chosen ones, I know you may ask, why do I always attract this? Why can't people just be happy for me? Because not everyone has the strength to face themselves. Your growth reminds them of the version they abandoned. Your resilience reminds them of the excuses they cling to. Your movement forward highlights the fact they've been standing still, and envy is easier than accountability. So let me reframe it for you. Every time someone side-eyes you, every time someone whispers your name with venom, every time someone tries to make you feel like you're too much, it's proof you're shaking them out of their comfort zone. Proof that your life is not invisible. Proof that you are making impact, whether you realize it or not. Chosen ones, wear that resentment like armor. Don't shrink under it. Stand taller, because it means you've become a living measuring stick. People can try to dodge the truth, but standing next to you, they see exactly who they could have been if they had refused to give up. That contrast is brutal for them, but it's beautiful for you. It means you're walking the path they were too afraid to take. You are not the problem, you are the proof. Proof that survival can turn into strength. Proof that pain can become progress. Proof that ordinary isn't the limit. And because of that, chosen ones, jealousy will always trail behind you like a shadow. But remember, shadows don't form unless the light is shining. And that light, that's you. Number 2, you bend the energy in the room without opening your mouth. Your silence shakes the room louder than their noise ever could. Noise is cheap, but presence is priceless, and nothing threatens pretenders more than someone who doesn't need to perform to be unforgettable. Chosen ones, let's get something straight. Your power isn't in how loud you are, it's in how undeniable you are. You don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need to demand attention to be noticed. Your impact is felt long before it's seen, and that's exactly what unsettles people the most. They can't put their finger on it, but they feel you, and that feeling lingers in ways their staged performances never will. Think about it. How many times have you walked into a room and felt the atmosphere shift? The conversation stutters. The tone changes, the air itself feels different. Nobody announces it, nobody explains it, but everyone senses it. That's not coincidence, that's presence. And chosen ones, presence is something money can't buy, status can't fake, and desperate people can't manufacture no matter how hard they try. Here's the truth. Most people spend their entire lives chasing scraps of validation. They twist themselves out of shape to be liked. They hustle for attention. They beg to be noticed. And even after all that effort, their impact is fleeting. Meanwhile, you're not even trying. You just are. And somehow, your silence speaks louder than their noise ever could. Let me hit you with a metaphor. Imagine 2 people standing in front of an audience. One is screaming, jumping, begging to be remembered. The other simply stands tall, says nothing, and yet all eyes are drawn to them. Which one do you think is more powerful? Exactly. That's you, chosen ones. You don't need theatrics. You don't need gimmicks. You are the earthquake that doesn't warn before it shakes the ground. And that's why they hate it. Because deep down, they know they can copy your clothes, mimic your words, and try to outshine you with theatrics. But they'll never replicate the atmosphere you carry. Your essence can't be imitated. Presence isn't about performance, it's about authenticity. It's born from the scars you've healed, the storms you've survived, and the truth you refuse to compromise on. That's what makes you magnetic. That's what makes you unforgettable. Now let's address the question that might already be running through your mind. If I don't even try, why are they so pressed? Because your very being exposes their desperation. Your silence reveals how empty their noise really is. Your groundedness highlights the chaos they can't hide. You walk in calm, centered, and unapologetic, and suddenly all the masks around you start itching. They can't compete with essence. They can only compete with performance. And when performance stands next to presence, it crumbles. Chosen ones, this is why people are jealous even when you don't understand why. You don't always see the ripple effect of your presence, but others feel it. Some are inspired, some are intimidated, and some are flat out envious because they know they'll never command attention without begging for it. They know they'll never be replayed in people's minds the way you are. How many times have you said something simple only to find out later that people are still quoting it, still replaying it, still talking about the way you carried yourself? That's impact. Not the kind that fades when the noise dies down, but the kind that lives rent-free in people's minds. That's why you're making more impact than you think, because it's not about what you say, it's about who you are. Chosen ones never underestimate the power of silence. Your silence unsettles their insecurity. Your silence shakes their illusions. Your silence proves that real power doesn't have to announce itself. It simply exists. And that's enough. You are the storm that doesn't need thunder to be felt. You are the presence that makes their noise sound hollow. And that, my chosen ones, is why jealousy follows you wherever you go. Number 3, you walked through hell and came back untouchable. You walked through fire and now your strength burns their excuses. They prayed the storm would drown you, but now they're choking on the fact that you learned to breathe underwater. Chosen ones, let's get brutally honest. People aren't just jealous of what you've achieved, they're furious about how you made it here. They expected you to break. They expected the pain to bury you, the betrayal to silence you, the rejection to crush you. They expected the fire to leave you in ashes. But instead of collapsing, you came out sharper, harder, and more unshakable than ever. And that, right there, is where the jealousy takes root. Most people want tragedy to leave permanent scars. They want suffering to mark you as damaged goods, to keep you small, bitter, and forever stuck in victim mode. But you flipped the script. You didn't just survive the fire, you rose from it carrying wisdom, depth, and a force they can't manufacture. That survival is a living testimony, chosen ones. And for some people, witnessing it is unbearable because it dismantles the story they've been hiding behind. That life is too unfair, too cruel, too heavy for them to keep going. Your strength reminds them of their weakness. They watched you walk through storms that would have drowned them, and instead of collapsing, you kept building, you kept moving, you kept transforming. And that contrast cuts deep. On one hand, they can't deny your resilience is powerful. On the other, it forces them to admit that they folded in situations nowhere near as heavy as yours. And that exposure burns like acid. Instead of being inspired, many people choose the easier path: resentment. It's easier to whisper that you got lucky than to face the fact that they quit too early. It's easier to call you too strong or too cold than to admit they lacked the courage to heal. They cover their shame with jealousy because clapping for you would mean confronting the truth about themselves. Chosen ones, here's the raw truth. You didn't just make it through, you transformed. You didn't crawl out of the pit dragging chains of self-pity. You climbed out carrying wisdom, clarity, and a sense of purpose that most people never find. That's what rattles them, because when they see you thriving after pain, when they see you glowing after fire, it calls out every excuse they've ever used to stay stuck. Think of it this way. Some people treat pain like a permanent prison. They decorate the walls of their suffering, settle into the routine of misery, and convince themselves there's no way out. Then here you come, walking out of the very same flames they said were impossible to escape. You didn't just escape. You built a castle out of the ashes, and now, every time they look at you, it's proof they could have freed themselves too, but they didn't. That reminder is too heavy for them to carry, so they choose envy instead. Your survival carries an authority they can't fake. It changes how people see you, how they respond to you, even how they whisper about you when you're not around. You didn't earn that authority from titles, money, or recognition. You earned it by surviving the very storms that were supposed to destroy you. That's why you walk with a weight others can't explain. It's why your silence feels louder than their noise. It's why their jealousy spikes every time your name enters the room. And let me ask you this, chosen ones, how many times have you noticed people looking at you sideways, almost confused at how you keep rising? That's because your resilience shatters illusions. It proves that strength isn't reserved for the privileged, the lucky, or the connected. Strength is built by refusing to bow to circumstances. And that reality terrifies people who know, deep down, they could have done the same but chose not to. This is why they envy you. You are proof that survival can become transformation. Proof that pain doesn't have to define you. Proof that storms don't just destroy, they also rebuild. Your life, chosen ones, is the evidence they don't want to see, and that evidence eats at them because it reveals what they were too afraid to face. So hold your head high. Remember this every time jealousy creeps into the room. They aren't mad because you failed them. They're mad because you didn't fail yourself. You rose, and your rise reminds them of the times they stayed down. That's your power, chosen ones. And that's why they'll never stop watching, never stop whispering, never stop envying, because your survival burns away their excuses. Number 4. Your vision stretches further than their entire horizon. Your vision stretches wider than their entire world. Small minds call it arrogance when they can't comprehend the size of your vision. My dear chosen ones, let's get this straight. You make people uneasy not because of what you have, but because of what you see. Most people live inside a box with walls so tight they can barely breathe, yet they've convinced themselves it's all they'll ever need. Their daily routine is predictable, safe and unchallenging. Wake up, gossip, pay bills, complain, repeat. That's their entire reality. And then you show up with a vision so expansive, it makes their whole world look like a shoebox. That's why they're mad. Not because you're bragging, not because you're trying to flex, but because your mind refuses to shrink to fit their limitations. Where they've made peace with being stuck, you've only made peace with potential. Your thoughts, your goals, your possibilities, they don't just stretch boundaries, they tear them down. And when they see that, chosen ones, it rattles every compromise they've made with themselves. Think about it. When was the last time you shared an idea and saw someone roll their eyes? When was the last time someone called you too ambitious or said you dream too big? That wasn't about you. That was their panic showing, because your vision forces them to face what they've ignored. It shines a light on the fact that while you're chasing horizons, they're still running in circles. Here's the truth they'll never say out loud. They're not jealous of your possessions, your title, or your outward success. They're jealous that your mind is unchained. You think beyond limits. You see freedom where they only see fear. You plan where they procrastinate. You build where they hesitate. And that contrast doesn't just bother them, it exposes them. Chosen ones, your vision is dangerous to their comfort zones. It destabilizes their entire reality because it proves there's more than the small lives they've settled into. It's like you're living on a different frequency, one they can hear but never tune into. They feel trapped by their own narrow thinking, while you glide past boundaries they've never dared to test. That's why your presence alone can make them restless. And here's the sting. No matter how much they criticize you, no matter how many names they call you, your vision keeps outpacing their grip. They can't stop it. They can't slow it down. Your mind moves faster than their resistance. Every step you take forward reminds them of how long they've been standing still. Every new possibility you chase exposes how small their world really is. So, what do? They label your ambition as arrogance. They call your focus obsessive. They whisper behind your back and try to box you in with words. But let's be real, this is projection, not truth. Because deep down, they know it's not arrogance when you see possibilities they can't. It's not obsession when you refuse to settle for mediocrity. It's expansion, chosen ones, and expansion terrifies those who have made a home in limitation. Let me give you a picture. Imagine someone staring out a tiny window, thinking it's the whole sky. Then you come along and rip down the wall, showing them the horizon stretches endlessly. Do they thank you? Number, they get angry. Why? Because now they can't pretend that little square was enough. Your vision exposes their smallness, and instead of expanding, they resent the one who showed them more. Chosen ones, don't let that resentment pull you back. Understand it for what it is, fear disguised as jealousy. Their discomfort is proof of your impact. You don't even have to prove anything. The difference is already written in how you think, how you plan, how you move. While they're clinging to routines that keep them safe, you're operating on a level that refuses to be contained. And here's the most powerful part. Your vision doesn't just change your life. It ripples, it challenges, it forces people to question their own smallness even when they don't want to. Some will hate you for it. Some will envy you for it, and a rare few will be inspired by it. But all of them will feel it. That's the power of being chosen. So remember this: when they call you too much, when they try to minimize your ideas, when they get mad and jealous just because your vision outgrows their reality, don't shrink, don't fold, don't step back. Because chosen ones, the very fact that your vision makes them uneasy is proof that you're already shaking their world. Number 5. You pull eyes without lifting a finger. You pull eyes without lifting a finger, and it drives them insane. The loudest in the room crave attention. The real ones command it without asking. Chosen ones, let's tear back the curtain on this truth. They envy the attention you don't even ask for, and believe me, it eats at them day and night. You don't shout for recognition, you don't scheme for a spotlight, you don't bend yourself into shapes hoping people will clap. You just walk in, you breathe, you exist, and suddenly heads turn, eyes lock, conversations pause. That effortless draw you carry cuts deep into the ones who spend their entire lives begging for what comes to you naturally. Think about it. There are people out there who wake up every morning with one mission: be seen. They post, they brag, they manipulate, they perform like actors on a stage, desperate for applause that fades the second the curtain drops. Their worth is chained to other people's validation, and still, despite all that effort, they barely leave a dent. Then you show up, chosen one, and without asking, without forcing, without even trying, you become the center of gravity in the room. That contrast humiliates them. Here's the secret they'll never admit. It's not what you do, it's who you are. The magnetism they envy doesn't come from status or money. It doesn't come from titles or props. It comes from something they can't replicate: authenticity. You radiate consistency, presence, and an unshakable confidence in who you are. That kind of energy can't be faked, and it can't be bought, and that's why they hate it. My chosen ones, you are living proof that real influence doesn't need a microphone. You don't have to wave your arms to be noticed. You don't have to perform like a circus act. You carry weight that speaks louder than noise. That's why people lean in when you talk. That's why they replay your words long after you've left. That's why your silence has more pull than their shouting ever could. Now let me answer the question I know lingers in your mind. Why me? Why does the spotlight follow me even when I'm not chasing it? Because when you're aligned with yourself, truly aligned, the world can't help but notice. People sense authenticity like heat radiating from fire. They feel the gravity of your presence, even if they don't understand it. And because they can't create it, they try to discredit it. They label you lucky, favored, or attention-seeking, when the truth is you've simply mastered the art of being real in a world full of fakes. Imagine this. Two singers step on stage. One belts out notes with all the right tricks, hoping for applause. The other sings from the soul, raw and unfiltered. Who do you remember? Not the one straining for claps, but the one who made you feel. That's you, chosen ones. You're not performing for recognition. You're living in truth. And truth has a resonance that echoes long after the noise fades. The jealousy burns because your effortless attention exposes their struggle. They scramble, clawing for scraps of validation, while people naturally gravitate to you. And the more you shine without trying, the more their insecurities scream. Because deep down, they know real power doesn't come from desperation. It comes from presence. And you, chosen ones, have mastered presence. So here's the hard truth. They will envy you, not because you demanded attention, but because you didn't need to. Every glance that follows you, every nod of respect, every person who chooses to listen instead of ignore, it's proof that authenticity outshines performance. And that proof destroys the illusions they built their self-worth on. Chosen ones never apologize for this, never shrink to make others comfortable. If they're uncomfortable with the attention you draw, that's their battle, not yours. You're not stealing the spotlight. You are the spotlight. And the more they struggle to outshine you, the more obvious it becomes that their glow is artificial. Let them scramble. Let them hustle for claps. While they're chasing approval, you'll keep drawing it without lifting a finger. And that's the kind of power they'll never admit they wish they had. That's why they're mad. That's why they're jealous. And that's why you've already made more impact than you thought. Number 6. Your truth makes their disguises suffocate. They hate your honesty because every word you speak rips apart the lies they've been living in. Chosen ones, let me be brutally clear. Your authenticity is like acid to their illusions. It eats through the masks people have carefully glued to their faces for years, while others twist themselves into shapes to be liked, to be accepted, to be validated. You don't bend. You don't edit yourself. You show up exactly as you are, raw, unfiltered, and unapologetic. And that terrifies them. Why? Because they've spent their whole lives constructing a version of themselves that isn't real. They've invested energy into pretending, into curating, into building an identity designed to impress, not to live. So when you step into the room, being real without effort, their carefully built facade starts to itch. It cracks. It crumbles. Suddenly, every smile feels forced. Every word feels hollow. Every performance feels flimsy in the presence of someone who doesn't need to perform. And here's the truth, my dear chosen ones. You don't even try to expose them, but your very existence does. Every time you speak honestly, every time you act without calculation, every time you walk in without needing approval, you're holding up a mirror. That mirror doesn't lie, and what they see reflected is the gap between who they pretend to be and who they actually are. That gap is unbearable, so instead of owning it, they turn their shame into jealousy. Think about it like this: masks only work in the dark. Masks only hold when no real light shines on them. But you, chosen ones, you are the light. You bring substance where others bring surface, and when substance walks into the room, facades start to itch, twist, and unravel. They don't know whether to admire you, resent you, or run from you. So what do? They project, they gossip, they label you as intimidating, too real, or difficult. But all of those are code words for the same thing. You make them uncomfortable in their lie. And I know what you might be asking. Why do people who barely know me react so strongly? Why does my truth trigger them when I'm not even aiming at them? Because authenticity is rare, chosen ones. And when something rare shows up, it makes the counterfeit obvious. You've mastered something they haven't, the ability to exist without needing permission, applause, or fake validation. That freedom they don't have is what makes their skin crawl. They've built their confidence on illusions. You've built yours on reality, and reality always beats the mask. This is why jealousy becomes their default reaction. They can't copy your essence. They can't manufacture what you carry. They can copy your style, mimic your words, try to imitate your moves, but authenticity has no blueprint. It's lived, it's bled for, it's earned. That's why it's untouchable. And when they realize they can never replicate what you have, the envy eats them alive. Chosen ones, understand this. You don't just walk in and fit in, you disrupt. You don't just talk, you shift. You don't just exist, you reveal. And revelation is dangerous to people who've been hiding behind masks for too long. You don't have to tear them down. They tear themselves down just by standing next to you. Remember this, being real in a world built on fakes isn't just different, it's revolutionary. And revolutions always spark resistance. They envy you because you have the courage they lack. They resent you because you've mastered what they never will. The freedom of being unapologetically yourself. So don't dull your shine, don't water down your truth, don't apologize for making their masks itch. That discomfort they feel, that's their problem, not yours. Because at the end of the day, chosen ones, masks fall, lies crumble, and illusions fade. But authenticity endures. And you are living proof. Number 7. You remind them how easily they can be replaced. You remind them how easily they can be replaced without even trying. In a world full of people desperate to be needed, nothing cuts deeper than someone who proves they don't need anyone to stand tall. Chosen ones, let's talk about the kind of quiet power you carry, the kind that rattles people more than shouting ever could. You don't have to boast, you don't have to flex, you don't have to put on a show. The way you move, the way you stand, the way you breathe independence, it's enough to make others panic. Why? Because your presence alone reminds them of something they've spent years denying. They are replaceable. Most people build their worth on shaky foundations. They depend on approval to feel valuable, on attention to feel seen, on validation to feel alive. Their significance isn't rooted in who they are, but in who notices them. Strip that away, and they crumble. But you, chosen ones, you operate differently. You don't chase recognition, you don't beg to belong, you don't let anyone else hold the keys to your self-worth. And that terrifies them. When people see you thriving without a cheering squad, when they notice you building without begging, when they watch you carry yourself with calm certainty that doesn't rely on outside applause, it forces them to face a truth they don't want to accept. They could be swapped out tomorrow, and the world would keep moving. That realization cuts deep, and jealousy rushes in to cover the sting. Here's the part that makes them even madder. You don't even try to make them feel small. You don't go out of your way to expose them. You don't rub your independence in their face. You're just existing unapologetically. But your existence itself shines a light on their dependence. They've built their lives around clinging, controlling, or manipulating to stay relevant. You bypass all of that effortlessly. While they scramble to prove they matter, you prove it by simply standing firm. Chosen ones, that kind of stability is rare. It's not just independence, it's self-sufficiency on a level most people can't even imagine. And here's the raw truth. People fear what they can't control. They fear what they can't manipulate. They fear what they can't replace. You embody all three. And so their resentment isn't really about you, it's about the reflection you force them to see of themselves. Ask yourself this: how many people do you know who can't survive without constant validation? How many need to be noticed to feel alive? How many collapse the moment they don't feel needed? That's most people. And that's why when they meet someone like you, someone who doesn't need their approval, someone who doesn't beg for relevance, someone who can walk away and still be whole, it rattles them to their core. Your calm strength, your ability to stand alone, flips their script upside down. They realize that all their games, all their tactics, all their desperate performances mean nothing in the presence of someone who knows their worth without the crowd. And that's why they project jealousy. Not because you're doing too much, but because you're doing what they can't, being unshakably independent in a world built on dependence. Remember this, chosen ones. When you move through life without needing anyone to validate you, you become the mirror that reflects how fragile others really are. And mirrors don't lie. Your independence screams a truth they can't ignore, that their sense of worth is built on sand. And when they see you building on rock-solid self-belief, it burns. You don't even have to say a word. Your actions speak for you. Every decision that isn't driven by desperation, every move you make without chasing approval, every moment you stand tall on your own 2 feet, it's proof. Proof that your value exists outside of them. Proof that your life doesn't depend on their recognition. Proof that they can't hold you hostage with their opinions. And that, chosen ones, is why they envy you so deeply. Because in a world where most people live and die by the applause of others, you show up as the exception. You remind them they're replaceable, not with arrogance, but with presence. Not with words, but with actions. Not by tearing them down, but by refusing to need them in the first place. That's real power. That's the kind of power they can't imitate, can't manufacture, and can't take away. And the more you stand in it, the more they'll realize that their grip on you was an illusion all along. Number 8. Every level up you take makes their excuses collapse. Your transformation turned their comfort zones into cages. They called it stability. Your growth exposed it as failure in disguise. My chosen ones, let's tell the truth most people choke on. Your transformation is the most threatening thing about you. Not because you flaunt it, not because you rub it in, but because every step you take forward makes their stagnation look like chains they locked themselves in. You didn't just change, you evolved. You didn't just grow, you reinvented. And that kind of transformation makes their "I'm fine just the way I am" sound hollow even in their own heads. Think about it. Most people build entire identities around staying the same. They convince themselves that routines, habits, and old patterns are a badge of honor. They preach comfort like it's achievement. They say, "This is just who I am," as if that excuses never becoming more. Then here you come, chosen one, shedding old versions of yourself like worn-out clothes and stepping boldly into new levels of strength, wisdom, and confidence. Your existence becomes a reminder of what growth looks like, and it burns them. They don't hate your transformation because it's flashy. They hate it because it makes their excuses impossible to believe. Every time you level up, you expose the fact that they've been standing still. You expose the lie they told themselves, that change is too hard, that circumstances are too limiting, that their situation is too fixed, and the cruelest sting. You didn't wait until conditions were perfect. You didn't wait for applause, permission, or a cheerleading squad. You chose growth in the middle of chaos with fewer resources than they had, and you made it work. That's what cuts them the deepest. Chosen ones, let me break it down. Transformation is like turning on a floodlight in a dark room. It doesn't just show your progress, it reveals the gaps in everyone else's life. It shows who's still clinging to comfort zones. It shows who's been bluffing, hoping life will change for them while they refuse to move. It shows the difference between those who work and those who wish. And when people see you evolve while they remain stagnant, it doesn't inspire them, it threatens them. Because inspiration requires humility, but jealousy requires nothing, and most people will choose the easy path of bitterness over the hard work of accountability. This is why they whisper behind your back. This is why they start labeling you lucky or privileged instead of admitting the truth. You simply had the courage to move when they chose to stay stuck. You simply had the guts to demand more of yourself when they were busy lowering the bar. Your growth is not just progress, it's a mirror, and they hate mirrors. And I know what you're asking in your mind right now. Why can't they just be happy for me? Why does my growth bother them so much? Because every new version of you is a silent rebuke to their old excuses. Every time you rise, it's proof that they could have too, but they didn't. Every time you transform, it unmasks the comfort they've mistaken for success. You're not competing with them, but your life is exposing them. That exposure is unbearable, and instead of rising to the challenge, they retreat into envy. Chosen ones, let this fuel you. Understand that their reaction isn't about you, it's about them. Your transformation unsettles them because it forces them to confront the possibility that safety isn't safety. It's failure with good branding. They call it being realistic. You reveal it as fear. They call it being consistent. You reveal it as laziness. They call it playing it safe. You reveal it as settling for less. And when that truth is undeniable, jealousy becomes their only shield. But here's your quiet power. Your transformation was never about proving them wrong. It was about proving yourself right. It was about becoming who you were always meant to be. Yet, in the process, your growth stripped away their illusions, left them standing in the bare truth of their own inaction. And that truth burns hotter than anything you could ever say. So keep transforming, chosen ones. Don't apologize for evolving. Don't dim your growth so their comfort zones stay intact. Remember, your life is proof that transformation isn't reserved for the privileged, it's reserved for the bold. And the bolder you become, the more their stagnation will feel like failure. Let that sting them, let it push them, but never let it slow you down. Because every version you shed, every level you climb, is another reminder to the world. Staying the same is not safety, it's surrender, and chosen ones don't surrender. Number 9, your echo is louder than their performance ever was. Your presence echoes louder when you're gone than their noise does while they're still there. Some people need to scream to be remembered. You only need to walk away. Chosen ones, let me tell you why people grind their teeth when it comes to you. It's not just about how you show up. It's about what happens after you leave. Most people fight tooth and nail just to be noticed in the moment. They force laughs, perform, exaggerate, put on a mask, hoping that someone, anyone, will remember their name. But you could step out of a room quietly, and hours later, maybe even days later, they're still replaying the way you looked, the way you carried yourself, the words you spoke, or even the silence you held. That's what makes them mad. That's what makes them jealous. Think about it. Influence isn't about how loud you are while you're standing there. Influence is about what lingers when you're gone. Your presence has depth, and depth doesn't fade. They can't stand it because their entire sense of worth is built on performance. They know that once the lights go off, once the eyes shift, once the noise dies down, their impact disappears. But you leave fingerprints on their memory without even trying. And here's the part they'll never admit. Chosen ones, you haunt them. Not in a malicious way, but in a way that forces them to remember you even when they don't want to. They try to shake it off, but the echo of your energy sticks. It's in their thoughts, in their conversations, even in the way they move after you've left. And for someone who struggles to be seen even when they're standing in the spotlight, that's infuriating. Let me ask you, Have you noticed how people sometimes bring up your name in rooms you're not even in? Have you noticed how your story, your presence, or even a single sentence you said finds its way into conversations days later? That's the power of substance over performance. That's why your presence is more than just a moment. It's a benchmark. They measure themselves against you long after you've walked away, and it gnaws at them because no matter how hard they try, they can't replicate it. Here's a metaphor for you. Imagine two fires. One is built on paper, the other on solid wood. The paper fire flares up quickly, grabs attention, burns bright and loud, but in minutes it's gone, leaving nothing behind but ashes. The wood fire, though, it burns steady, quiet, deep. Even when the flames die down, the embers stay hot, the warmth lingers, and you still feel its effect long after. Chosen ones, you are that wood fire. They are the paper, and it burns them to know your presence has staying power while theirs fades the second they step out of sight. And here's where the jealousy really festers. They know people still talk about you after you've gone. They know your name lives in the room, your impact ripples through the atmosphere, and your essence doesn't vanish with your footsteps. That's terrifying to them because it exposes the truth. You don't need to chase relevance. You are relevance. Your existence doesn't depend on being visible all the time. It depends on being authentic, real, and unforgettable. Chosen ones, your lasting presence is not about ego. It's about substance. It's about every lesson you've learned, every storm you've survived, every scar you've turned into strength. That's what makes your presence heavy, magnetic, and impossible to ignore. And because it's born from authenticity, they'll never be able to manufacture it. They can copy your words, your style, even your strategies, but they'll never be able to fake the quiet authority you carry. And that's why they envy you. Because while they scramble to hold people's attention, you command it naturally, even in absence. You leave behind echoes that rattle their comfort zones, whispers that spark conversations, and energy that shifts entire dynamics. You are unforgettable without asking to be. So remember this, chosen ones. When they talk about you after you leave, when your presence lingers in their minds, when your impact refuses to fade, that's not a problem, that's power. Let them whisper, let them stew, let them envy. Because every time your echo outlives their performance, it proves the truth they can't stand to face. You don't need the room to stay relevant. The room needs you. And that's the truth, chosen ones. You don't just show up, you leave echoes, ripples, and impact that others can't erase, no matter how hard they try. That's why they're mad. That's why they're jealous, because you make more impact than you've ever realized. Now it's your turn to move with even more power. If this message hit home, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop the words 77 in the comments to claim your chosen energy. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Let's keep rising, chosen ones.